Good evening and welcome back to my channel. So this is the final installment of Norside Nelly, 1/35th scale duck boat custom. And in this I go ahead and finish up the details for the canopy, the details, the back entryway, basically where the passengers get on and off, the detailing of the cabin, then putting on the transfers and other little assorted doodads that make it unique. The weathering's kind of light, but this episode's a little bit longer than most. So I'm just gonna stop waffling and let you go ahead and get in. If anybody has any suggestions, feel free, put them down below. Just keep them respectful. Hope you enjoy it, and let's take a look. All right, so where we've got is we have the undercarriage put on. I'm kind of juggling a bunch of things here. But the undercarriage is put on. The driver's tools are put in. What I need to do is the dash and then clean that up. And then I can put the chairs in. Now the chairs, I have all the chairs ready. And I'll pick the best 4 that I will put in the back because they're going to be the most seen. And the rest will get put all through here. Now what I do see is I see different colors for the seats and so forth. And again, I think I mentioned this before, but I'm going to say it one more time. It seemed to go through a whole bunch of different choices of colors. So the color that I'm going to go with is going to be the one that is red. So like that red vinyl type look. We're going to go with that. I'm just going to make color choices for what I see and the version of Norside Nelly I want to go with. So now this is I'm calling it the cage, but it's the framework for the top. And so it will drop in here. Now the next thing I need to do is do the top part. And I figure I can do that with this off. But because I can do multiple things at once. And what I'm going to do is use paper. Voila. And paper shaper again. Now, I tried this stuff before, and I know I mentioned that I thought about using toilet tissue instead of paper. But I'm going to try this one more time. I'm going to try using just paper and do this. So all I need to do really is measure this, cut it, and there we go. Measure it, cut it, and put it on. And then we'll see how that goes. So that's that. And painting the chairs, what I'm about to go do. The other thing I did is I was preparing the transfers for what I needed. And now this is not the transfer, this is just paper with the printing, but it is the size that I'm after. So this will be that'll be the size of printing I can use for the custom decals. And all I need to do now is print them out and prep them. I've printed that. Well, I've prepared that. I've prepared the stars. I've prepared the tours depart from Station Square transfer that goes behind here. And this goes on both sides, as well as the handicap lift sign that goes here. Or actually here. Yeah, it goes here. And the other sign, so there's a big sign that goes pretty much here, and that has like the just Ducky Tour Land and Water, the big marquee sign. That one I'm going to go ahead and just print on paper and glue down, varnish over, and that way I can just put it on a placard that'll go there. And the same with the Just Ducky little symbol that goes right there at the end, the little duck on wheels. Right, so those two are just placards. So we're going to do those. I also need to do the mirrors, and I've been on the fence about what I'm going to do there, but I think I'm going to go ahead and custom build them and see what I come up with there. So we're going to go ahead and get cracked in. Okay, so we've gotten essentially to the part where I'm starting to get the interior where they need to be. I built up all the chairs. got them painted. Also hit them with a bit of a dry brush to give them some wear look. I was more worried about taking care of these than the ones in here, because most of these aren't going to be seen. These are in place. These two are in place. These are in place. I've positioned these to get the right spacing, because I wanted to get them to where they're looking evenly spaced. And what I'll do is I'll put this row in without moving those. Right, so I'll know where that one is. I'll get this one put in. I get this side put in, and then, you know, walk my way back, and then I'll go back and do those. Got some touch-ups to do, obviously, but you know, that much is getting there, and that's kind of been the real trickiest part. You know, custom, like scratch building all of those after casting and all that. One of the next steps then will be to paint up the cage, I guess, whatever, the guardrail around this back part, and then get that put in. That piece, you know, there's a mirroring piece for the other side, and then we'll put a part over here to draw those together. And then so there's these two, and then there's the ones that are going to go here, and then a gate that'll go across. Actually, a chain that'll go across. We do have the ladder, right? I have the ladder done and painted, so this guy will go. I need to get it to where it's here, and I got to get it to the right height, because that's, I think it's like that. So I think gets trimmed off right about here. But that goes in, and then what we'll do is it'll be up on a hinge that takes it up to here, right? And that's taking care of the backside. I still need to do the lights. Still need to do the lights and the mirrors, all this, but I'm going to leave those for last, because the other big thing I've got to do is this. So this is, you know, where the paper shaper came out, and it was okay. And now I remember why I said I was going to use toilet tissue last time. Now the next thing I do need to do is I need to do the rolled up parts that go lengthwise here and here. And again, I'm going to use paper for that, because it doesn't need to be all floofy. And like, here's a picture. Right, so that's a picture I'm actually looking at, like right up here. I've got pictures of these up here to catch me. So I've got a roll to do here, here, across the back, and across the front, and that'll be those. I do want to paint this. Once I paint that, then I can go ahead and drop this guy on here, and then that will be, actually, that's going to get, that was actually why I wanted to wait until I get that done before I do this. Because this guy then drops in here, and it'll connect to that. There we go. Right, so we'll be able to close this up. You get the idea. Come on. Whatever, you get the idea. Big fat. My thumbs here. Fat fingers there. So I get that in there. And then I get this positioned. Once this is in, this will come back a little bit. This guy will come back to right about there. We'll get all that in, and then it'll just be the details. So once I do those and these, then I can go back and do the mirrors here, and the lights, and then the transfers, and then, you know, final weathering and so forth. So that's where we are for the moment. I'm going to go ahead and get cracked in on getting these seats in place, and then we'll, you know, one step at a time. So, all right, so I'm going to walk through doing the paper shaper. All I did is I made, you know, basically pieces of paper that are the right size. I had to trim that down just to get it to the right thing. Get the paper wet. So, and I don't want to like use the whole bottle of paper shaper. Maybe that's what I'm doing wrong. I'm not sure. So what I do is I got the paper itself wet, and then I rolled it. I ended up rolling it around one of the skewers that I have, because that gets it to roll up in approximately the right shape. And then each of these tarps that are rolled up are tied up with a rope tie on each one. And I think the two end ones have 4 and the side ones have 6. So, and that's what I did, is just used this heavy twine, which was an approximation of the size of rope, to duplicate that, and then get that tied in. And then I'll come back here once I get that tied up and shaped, right? We'll come back and snip that off. Now go get the paper shaper, and then I'll soak it in the paper shaper, and that's what'll get that to hold and stay to that form. So I went around and did one for all of them, right? So you had the 2 for the side and then the 2 for the end. Once I did that, I started working on other pieces of detail. Like there's a life wheel, right? And essentially all I did was, it had an interesting little rope connection to it. So I duplicated that with, this is basically a piece of sprue that I painted red, put the white bands on, and used, again, rope thread that looked like rope. So then I went ahead, it was time to go ahead and start putting the placards on. And again, these were mostly printed onto 2mm sheet and then varnished to make them be what they needed to be. After that, it was time to print the transfers, and I had those printed to the right size, as as I indicated, and then go back and spend the time putting them on, right? So once it took quite a bit of effort and a good bit of mark fit, but it ended up working out. So once all of the main assembly's done, it was time to go back and start doing the weathering. And again, there's not a lot of heavy weathering to this. So as always, it's basically, for this, I basically just did an oil pin wash. I mentioned this, these were pretty well maintained, so I didn't really want to heavily weather these. I ended up using light browns. That comes out better against the yellow, right? So the yellow is sort of an interesting color. So I use browns and a deep red that actually gives a shadowed look into where it's going, and that's what I'm looking for. Just pull out the details, right? I'm not looking for dirt, grime in the corners. I'm just trying to highlight the details and little, the rivets and so forth. Then it was time to go ahead and shade up the canvas cover. And again, this was a little more heavy-handed, and I needed to be a little stronger with the use of the oils and the shading. I ended up doing that a lot, so I kind of put it on a little bit heavier than I would for most things, and I use the oils to actually show shading where you would show highlights and lowlights. And it came out, I had to keep it light, but it was a little more heavy-handed than normal for what I like to do. But that was where I was taking it, and that's what I needed to do. And then it was time to go ahead and do the mirrors. And this was something that I wasn't sure if I was going to, but I ended up giving it a shot. And I ended up using these guardrail sprues because they were just about the right size and shape for what I was after. So I went ahead and I cut them into triangle pieces, and then I'm going to use CA glue and fixer. You put just a drop of the CA glue there, and then a bit of kicker, and bang, it just holds it in place, which is really what I needed it to do. And it's strong, and it's it's not like these are going to get knocked around a lot, 'cause if they are, I'm handling it way too much. But it holds the detail right where it needs to be, and that's what I'm after. Right, so we get that in, and I got the shape that I was after. It took some fiddling, and it was a little bit fiddly, but taking my time, I actually got the shape what I wanted. Once I had the braces up, then it was just a matter of cutting 2 discs and putting the right kind of paint, the right kind of detail on it, and some high chrome paint on where the mirrors are, detailing it out, and that pretty much made it work. And with that, I'm going to call this one done. As with everything, I can see a couple of things that I could do a little bit differently, and I will probably fiddle with here and there to maybe touch up. But for the most part, I'm going to call this one finished. It was an adventure to practice with. Essentially, this was, uh, pretty much scratch built from here up, right? And that was what I wanted. Well, okay, the purpose of doing this was the challenge of doing that. And, I wanted to go ahead and kind of push myself into trying to match the original as much as I could. Now, there are things that I chose simply to not do, um, but those are minimal. And I learned a lot as I tried to do some of these other things. Now, I thought about trying to find a way to do a clear roll up here to match what I know I saw, but that wasn't going to work. I still am not overly happy with the paper shaper or how that works, so I'm going to try. Maybe next time I do it, I will try it with some different material. But again, some of the other things that I end up having a decent representation of what I was going after. Some of the custom built stuff like this here, redoing the headlights, the sign, the back seats, all of those ended up coming out. The reorientation of the announcer, the tour guide's chair. It all ended up working out pretty close to what I was after. Some of the weathering is light, and again, this is very, very lightly weathered, right? So this is very intentionally not heavily dirty. These were kept very, very clean. And actually, I rode on one of these, so it was kind of neat. I'm a little sad that they're gone, but I get it. Things are as they are. But this was a good, I guess, stretch, right? This was a good project to stretch my skills, and I did learn a lot. I did do a bunch of things that came out better than I thought. I thought I was not going to do these mirrors. I had pretty much decided I wasn't going to do them, and then about halfway through the last bits, I was like, you know what, let's give it a shot. And they ended up, again, they are not exactly as, but they are close, and they have a pretty good representation. Overall, though, it was a good experience. It was fun to do. It was fun to practice, and this will have a nice spot on my train set, which is something of a representation of Pittsburgh, which is where I'm at. So yeah, I hope that this little adventure was something that was entertaining to watch and see how it came about. I'll move on to my next project. I'll go ahead and put some pictures up here, and until next time, thank you again very much for watching. Anybody who has any suggestions, hints, please always feel free to put them down below. Just keep them respectful. And until next time, happy modeling, everybody.